Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy Sunday. Lynn Sharif here, and I am here for my Sunday Soul Chat. This is a holiday weekend. We are coming off of Thanksgiving, and I wanted to talk about a specific issue around holidays and around marriage and divorce. And my title tonight is Count the Cost. And I'll share with you what I mean as I go through my thoughts. So, for those who don't know me, I have been married for 19 years to Chef Sharif. He is amazing. He is my soulmate. It is a second marriage for us. And we have a blended family of 3 children. And the 2 older children are his. The younger one was mine when we entered, but all 3 of them are ours. So the older children were close to high school when we got together, and the younger was, actually he was 3 when we met. So we have been in this thing for a very long time. And now the older children are well into their 30s, and our younger is 25, living on their own in a state far, far away. And we are grateful to God that he is full on adulting, as I call it, not saying, hey, listen, can you help put something on the rent? Listen, he is doing his whole thing, and we are really grateful about that. However, when he came home, it brought back to me the reality of a divorced life. Tonight, I really want to talk to a couple who might be going through some challenges and believing that the answer to that challenge is to call it quits. The answer to that challenge is to seek divorce. But I want to talk to that couple that has children, because it's a whole nother ball of wax when you add in young people, when you add in babies, when you add in toddlers. It's a whole nother story. My scenario on this year, and keep in mind, we've been doing this for, many, many years. But on this year, generally, I'm going to say in past years, because I and my ex live in the same city, we live on the same side of town, generally it would be dinners earlier for them, later for us, and we would do an exchange at some point during the day. But in the last several years, that time has been almost at about the same time. So what would end up happening is that both families would have to disrupt in some way to leave and pick up or leave and drop off the child, who is now a man. And this year it happened, his dad picked him up. I went and picked him up from the dinner, but it required for me to leave my family for a while. And, again, I have a very nice relationship with my ex-in-laws. And so I visited for a while. And so it's just awkward. And it just, as I was driving back at 10 something, I was thinking, wow, this is what we're doing 20 years later. And so it only gets more complicated when children are younger, when there are so many other factors. Because please know that I understand the drama and pain that goes along with divorce, because I did all that. I did it like I did it the most. I had the most painful divorce. I had the most painful scenario, custody battle. I had all that. It was awful, and I do not wish it on my worst enemy. And so what happens is, when I'm speaking to that couple who is in the midst of a marriage and all you just want out. You just think, how can I get out of this? How can I get away from you? We're going to divorce. But guess what? Y'all got 1, 2, 3, 4 children. Please understand that if you're living in the same house and you're not getting along, when you divorce, it's going to become infinitely more challenging. Parenting. And then at the holiday time, it ratchets up. Because it's not just the two of you that are no longer together. It's your family, it's your friends, it's your children. There are collateral costs that are involved when you split a family. And you are only thinking, how can I get away from you? How can I get away from you, the spouse that I may quite frankly hate right now? I just want to get away from you. So let's just go on and pack this whole thing up. But then you've got holidays. How do we split the time? What do we do? It ratchets up if the family is in two different states. It was okay for us because we were in the same state, the same city, and the same side of a very big city. So certainly not as challenging as it can be for some other people. But here's the thing, and I don't really know. I go back and I think, would things or could things have been different? Because no one ever talked to me about the collateral damage of divorce. It just wasn't something that people talked about. But I want to be the person that can actually speak to you in the midst of your challenge and tell you that it seems easy, but it's not. It really isn't. I had a friend who her marriage, the demise of her marriage was not something that she really wanted, but she was divorced, and every single handoff of her child, she was alone. She would watch her child walk off with her father, and she'd go home and cry because she not only was dealing with the loss of the marriage, she was dealing with the loss of her child. And so understand that when you divorce, you are going to have to be okay with being away from your child for events, for monumental times in the year, for Christmas, for birthdays, for Thanksgiving, for Easter, for spring break, for Christmas break, for Thanksgiving break. You're going to have to get okay with being away from the thing that is your heart, the thing, your child. And that's why you end up having this incredible drama that exists between partners, because it's your baby. And then if you don't agree when y'all living in the same house about trying to raise and what are the things that you do to raise your child, you're no longer together. And so you're having to negotiate those things. Oh, and let's ratchet it up. Then what if they get somebody else? And then what do you think about that particular person? Adding all that in, those are the costs of divorce. And here's something else. This is, people often think that the opposite of love is hate. Love, hate, love, hate. There's a very thin line between love and hate. And so the opposite of love truly is indifference. And I'll give you an example. So my ex and I have been apart for so many years. So I really don't spend a lot of time thinking about, I think about him in the context of what he means to our child, but I don't spend time thinking about revenge or anger or any type of activity towards him. So ultimately what I'm saying to the couple that is struggling, that if you find that there is a lot of drama that exists between you, I would dare to say that if you were to peel back some of those layers, that what's on top of the love is hurt, anger, dismay. A lot of things are piled on top of that, and that's what creates the drama between you. But peeling it away, you may still have a shred of love there. And my ultimate message is that even that shred, please know that if the two of you are willing to lay down your weapons and say, because you can't do it by yourself. You can't be on one side saying, okay, let's try and save this thing, and your partner is not even on the same page. It has to be the two of you. And if you guys find that you are really clashing, can you lay down your weapons and say, okay, what can we do to salvage it? Because it's not just about you. It's not just about the two of you. It's about your children. And ultimately, if you go a level deeper, it's about the legacy. What is the legacy that you're leaving your children? Because when you look at this thing from a spiritual perspective, the Lord created marriage. He has this thing that he created. It is beautiful. The enemy wants to foil that plan. And so he is very good at it because he's got our flesh, he's got us kind of in some ways working against God's plan. Because the only way you really are able to get with God's plan is if you put yourself to the side and say, okay, let me love you with a completely selfless love, not the selfish, I want this, the back and forth that goes. That's not, the enemy wants to foil that plan. And so if the two of you can say, let's try and do something different, not just for us, but for our children and the legacy that our children are going to have. Because you don't just divorce each other. You divorce the children, you divorce the family, you divorce your friends, you divorce everybody. And it's just mad awkward. Trust me, lived it. It's mad awkward. And if you can just say, stop, let's try and do something different, to give something different to our children. Because your children are going to grow up and they're going to come in contact with situations that are difficult. And so really marriage is also about how do we get through the tough times? How do we come through that together? How can we build something that is not, you know what, let's just go. A lot of times, and I heard this is not me saying this, but I heard it from Black Love. People don't change. They don't want to change themselves. They just change partners. They don't want to deal with the stuff that's inside of them. They just say, you know what, let's just put that to the side. Let me keep moving. But what you're going to have in common with all of it is you. You are going to meet you wherever you go. And so if you don't deal with the things that are inside of you, you're going to end up with the same scenario. So again, my scenario was what divorce looks like some 20 odd years later. He is grown, got a goatee, deep voice, but we're still doing the whole, what time? And the difference is this. When you're younger, when the child is younger, you're dealing with the ex-partner directly. But because my son's a whole grown man, I'm like, listen, find out what's happening on the other side and you let me know. I'm not the person doing all that. But still, it disrupts the family. I talked about how there is a thin line between love and hate, but that the opposite of love is indifference. If you have a shred, if you all are dealing with crazy drama, there underneath all that probably is a little bit of love. And I'm going to ask you to hold on to that, ask God to work with that. Get a counselor and work through that, because it's not just about you. It's about you, your children, and the legacy that you are leaving with them. And so I ultimately want you to count the cost and know what the costs are and know what it is that you're signing up for when you say, I'm done. Okay? So I hope that's helped you. And if you know a couple that is in struggle, I'm going to ask you to share this video with them. Share this video, because I don't know that anybody is talking about what the costs of divorce are. It's not easy. It seems like it's a really good fix for the pain that you're in now, but not necessarily. And that thing is going to have a ripple effect for years and years and years. So thanks so much for joining. You take care. Have a great week.